HTC refines their design inside and out with their latest flagship smartphone. This is the HTC One M9. While there are quite a few improvements made in this newest version of the One, the most obvious is noticed when you get the phone in the hand. HTC improved on their very well-regarded design language by taking some of the aesthetics from the One M7 and mixing it with the ergonomics of the M8. The result is a phone that basically adopts the two-tone coloration introduced in their Desire line of mid-range phones. But in this case, the metal construction is still the centerpiece, bringing a simultaneously industrious and elegant look. On the sides, the intersection of HTC's previous two design languages results in a sharper edge or a taper that brings the somewhat smoother backing into the sharper front that concaves down a bit. This tactile feel on the sides is helped by a backing that isn't quite as slippery as before, making this an HTC One that not only looks but feels much better. Dual anodization creates the two-tone look, as the silver version you're seeing is covered in a gold rim. The gold is actually subtle enough to keep the phone from looking too gaudy, but there are a couple other colors like the returning gunmetal that also looks incredibly sleek. Even the button layout has been brought to the side, where the power button was once on top. Up front, the boom sound speakers are easily found in big grills on the top and bottom halves, and the upgraded camera optics bring a very large unit to the backing without the extra eye of the duo camera. There's no denying that the HTC One design has been well received, and in the metallic space, it is definitely one of the most recognizable. But ergonomically, it has been improved, and that's where the design aspect can easily be the focus of HTC's steps forward. The display experience is actually quite similar to the previous HTC One. A Super LCD3 panel that brings 1080p resolution stays at the 5-inch form factor. It's still a little tall, especially considering the bezels and the speakers at the top and bottom, but getting side to side is certainly no issue, and adding a couple elements to the soft key navigation bar can help alleviate the hand gymnastics. The screen remains pretty easy on the eyes, as we didn't really have any issues seeing things in broad daylight, though the color production on the display is quite a bit cooler compared to the warmer tones of the HTC One M8. It's what's underneath the screen that truly shines, as the Snapdragon 810 makes another appearance in a flagship handset, this time backed by 3GB of RAM. And while we might have been a bit skeptical about its performance in other devices thus far, the HTC Sense 7 operating system does well to show how great this processor can be. While some credit has to be given to how Spartan the OS is, its smooth and speedy elements cannot be denied. Going from the updated lollipop elements of the interface into applications and then back out again through the recent app screen yields one of the nicest transitions and of noticeably smooth experience all around. I cannot reiterate this enough. This thing absolutely flies. And speaking of Sense, a few key enhancements have been added to bring the 7th version of this operating system. First noticeable is the Sense Home, a widget that is basically a contextual location-based app launcher. Depending on where you are based on GPS, Sense Home will bring up applications that you use on a regular basis. It's a nice first iteration that benefits from being a widget because at least you can remove it if you want to. And it's also nice that you are able to remove the folders that it comes with. One with all your downloaded applications and one filled with suggestions that sometimes might come off a little spammy, provided that you don't really care about what apps that appear in it. Blink Feed returns, but now adds its own location-based flavors. Results from the local Yelp listings, for example, become available at certain times, as the One M9 will suggest through Blink Feed, and in an area on the lock screen, places that you can go for a bite to eat, for example. It's an addition that's better felt over time, and in just the day or so that we had with this phone, it didn't really butt into my routine enough for me to say it was good or bad to have. And aside from the lollipop enhancements baked into Sense 7, changes to the interface can be felt through the theming engine. Many aspects of the interface can be changed to different colors through themes that are either pre-installed or downloaded from a growing list of shared ones from the interwebs. But the most impressive part of this theme is the ability to take any picture, ideally your wallpaper of choice, and plug it into the app. It will analyze the colors and find a combination to use for all of the interface elements. You can see me here putting my Mega Man X wallpaper in and finding the right shade of blue to easily apply to the OS. Before we get to the camera, some other hardware enhancements include micro SD card expansion that backs the 32GB of onboard storage. The boom sound speakers remain a very good part of the media experience, especially when Dolby is put into the mix for even better sound. The sensor for easily waking and unlocking the phone also returns, so when bringing the phone up from a prone position, a simple double tap or swipes from the sides can get users to key parts of Sense. And finally, the battery has been brought to 2840 mAh, though testing for full day usage battery life is going to have to wait for when we get our final review units. You've probably been wondering about the large camera optic on the back. Yes, we get a larger 20-megapixel sensor here that forgoes the ultra pixels of previous HTC One devices. The result is a much enhanced picture-taking experience, though in translation, we have to keep our reservations about the One M9. Before we get to that though, the app interface has been improved for easier selection of modes, and it is worth noting that a Pro mode will be available after launch, which will allow for raw capturing of images. If you were missing the Ultra Pixel from the HTC previous ones, however, don't worry, the low-light performer has been moved to the front in order to make self-portraits easier to capture. It's a very thoughtful move that has translated to success thus far, with selfies getting the kind of low-light performance they need, especially in indoor situations. But now it's in the rear-facing camera that we have to dial back our enthusiasm because the 20-megapixel optics are actually pretty uneven. Pure daylight shots still bring the kind of quality we wanted from these shots, despite the dialed-back color saturation, and details were quite sharp, and we were happy with those results in broad daylight. But even in somewhat lower light situations, the noise comes back and darker elements are very blotchy. It's quite easily noticed in photos, but it's even more noticeable in video, which is where the lack of optical image stabilization is probably most acutely felt. It's important to note that improvements to the camera software will be made in time before the launch, but we are definitely hoping to see that those right enhancements are particularly found in the low light situations. And so, there you have it, the HTC One M9. In this first look at their new flagship, HTC seems to have been at work creating the most refined and perfected One device yet, and in a lot of ways they seem to be on the right track. In design, and especially in the software enhancements, they are backed not only by a powerful processing package, but by a body that is not sacrificing the simplistic elegance that originally distinguished the line. If there was only one flaw in an otherwise great package, it might have to be the camera, which is a bit of a bummer because we hope that the issues we have seen thus far are remedied in the final review units. So, you can wait until then when we get our full review units and we can bring you our full review of the HTC One M9. But until then, keep it tuned to Android Authority for all of the best coverage from the Mobile World Congress 2015.
Camera phones continue to gain significant popularity across the globe, and even though the standards for what makes a camera-centric phone are still not defined, today we get to see another attempt at the market. For a quick hands-on of the Lenovo Vive Shot. Lenovo is not only Motorola's parent company now, but also one of the largest smartphone manufacturers in the world, even though most of these remain in China. The company's Vive lineup may not be famous for many flagship devices, but with the sudden surge in great camera experiences on smartphones, Lenovo decided to take a piece of the pie with the Vive Shot, even if through debatable means. See, the Lenovo Vive Shot is designed to vaguely resemble an old Leica camera in some ways, with a double-textured back and a brushed aluminum finish that actually looks quite elegant. You may debate the purpose of the device when you dig through the specs of the camera though, since this device sports a decent 16-megapixel shooter with a 16:9 BSI sensor that's optically stabilized. There's a dedicated camera key and even a dedicated switch to help you easily go from auto shooting modes to manual ones, an IR sensor for 2 times faster focusing speeds, and even a tricolor flash that we hadn't really seen before. It also sports an 8-megapixel fixed focus selfie camera at the front that took some very nice shots while we were here. Sadly, there are some things missing to make this a true camera phone, at least for some standards, like, for example, some sort of optical or digital zooming options like what we see with the Lumia 1020 or other competitors, and even a xenon flash that we've also seen in certain Lumias. We'll definitely have to test this out during our review period to make sure we confirm what all the hype is about. That being said, there is a lot of positive here when it comes to the spec sheet. This device comes with 3 colors, black, white, and red, sports a 1.7 GHz octa-core 64-bit Snapdragon 615 processor, a 5-inch 1080p IPS display, 3 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of internal storage that's expandable to 128 gigs through microSD, dual nano SIM options, a 2900 mAh battery, in addition to other things that actually spell this as more of a flagship. Its software is also based on Android 5.0 Lollipop under Lenovo's proprietary Vive skin that includes many vibrant colors and lots of minimalism throughout the UI, even though it can be a little cartoony for the taste of many. What's important here is that if you skip some of the bugs that we found during our quick hands-on, you will notice that it is very snappy and the UI is actually very practical, and even though again the icons do look weird, it does look like Lollipop in most of the things that are important. It's hard for us to tell if we'll ever see this device reaching US shores, but you bet that we can't wait to get it for a review.
Now at the Sony booth here at Mobile World Congress 2015, taking a look at the Sony Xperia M4 Aqua. And this is basically Sony's latest mid-range flagship device, and they're sort of marketing it as a high-end mid-range device. But essentially what you're looking at is a design that's very familiar to previous Sony devices like the Z3, Z2, or the Z1, but instead of being made of metal and glass, it's actually made of plastic, but it still feels really nice in the hand, and the compact size makes it very easy to operate in one hand. Now, as far as the specs go, you're looking at a 5-inch display coming in at 720p resolution, and inside it's being powered by a Snapdragon 615, 2 gigabytes of RAM, and there's a 2400 milliamp hour battery, which should be enough to get you through a full day, especially with that 720p display. On the back is a 13 megapixel sensor coming in at f2.0 aperture and an ISO performance that goes all the way up to 3200. So at least on paper, you should be able to get some really great low light performance. On the front is a 5 megapixel camera, and it's a wide angle lens at 88 degrees. So you should be able to take some really great selfies and fit a lot of your friends into a single shot. Software, it's running Android 5.0 Lollipop out of the box with Sony's Xperia UI. So you're going to get all the great features of Lollipop and all of the great features of the Xperia UI built into the operating system. It's also dust and water resistant like many other Sony phones, with a rating of IP65 and IP68, and available colors include black, white, and coral. Availability starts in spring of 2015 with a price of 299 euros, and it will be available in 80 countries with 100 carrier partners. But this has been a quick look of the Sony Xperia M4 Aqua.
Hey guys, it's Basil here at MWC 2015 for BTEC and Wearable, and today I have the Huawei TalkBand B2. The TalkBand B2 is a successor to the B1 as the name suggests, but it's much better. For starters, just look at this thing. It actually looks pretty expensive. This is a gold version. We'd anticipate it being the most expensive. It comes with this leather strap. It's also available in a black version and a silver version too. The core body unit is identical across them all, save for the color obviously, but the strap is different across them both. Now, given the name TalkBand, you're not going to be Dick Tracying it. It's not going to be on your wrist and then be put to your mouth. Instead, this thing actually detaches. So put your finger on the 2 buttons and it unclasps, and you can yank out what is a Bluetooth headset, and a pretty decent looking Bluetooth headset as well. It feels nice and premium, especially this gold version, but getting the gold version will come at a price, not just monetary. It's a lower IP rating. The black version, I think it's IP68, though check the specs for confirmation of that, but the gold version is IP55 or thereabouts. What you can expect across all of them though is a new improved interface, supported across iOS and Android through the use of an application. It supports touch input, unlike its predecessor, which is awesome. Standard 6-axis gyroscope. You've also got sleep tracking on here as well. A 90 milliamp capacity battery sees this thing through around 7 hours of call time, which is pretty decent. Also packs 12 days of standby time too. And if you're using it heavily, 5 days of battery according to Huawei. Just tap the button on the right hand side, as you can see, in order to activate that screen. Think it's probably an OLED panel right there. If we take a look around the actual different variants, you can see, like we said, you've got that button, you've got 2 dots, one maybe a microphone or something along those lines. You've also got the 2 unclasping buttons as well, and it is a kind of brushed rose gold. The leather strap itself has this pretty evident white stitching, and it's a clasp function for the leather strapped variant. If you take a look at the black variant, by contrast, we can unlatch it and you can see it's got a rubber strap, and it isn't quite as premium feeling. If we stow it away, the strap itself is a striated material. It doesn't feel quite as rich. We definitely would say if you are getting this thing in part for style, we would opt for the gold version. We haven't checked out the silver version. Hopefully we'll get a chance to look at that at MWC. But either way, both of these are marked improvements over their predecessor, the TalkBand B1. So hopefully you've enjoyed my hands-on with the Huawei TalkBand B2. If you have, make sure that you click that like button. If you have any questions about these, fire them in the comments section below. If you like the video, click like. And if you want to know more about BTEC or Wearable, head to btect.com or wearable.com. That's wearable spelled W-A-R-E. You can find the link in the description below. Thanks for watching.
Hey tech fans, Luke Westaway here at Mobile World Congress 2015. We're taking a look at the Jack fuel cell charger from MyFC. It's a portable charger that actually creates its own electricity. Let's take a look. So you're probably used to the idea of portable power packs that you can recharge and that keep your gadgets topped up, but this is slightly different because it's actually creating its own power out of hydrogen. So inside these cards there's water and salt, and when you plug them into the Jack power pack like this, hydrogen is released and that is converted into electricity. Jack says that from one card you'll get 2400 milliamp hours of charge, so that would be enough to roughly, say, charge an iPhone 1.5 times. So these plastic cards aren't reusable, so once you've got your charge out of it, that's done. You have to just get rid of it. But the good news is you can recycle them. So you can recycle them with your home plastic recycling. Another benefit is that MyFC says that this thing is safe and approved for air travel, and the actual cards themselves are going to be pretty cheap. They're going to cost roughly between $1.5 and $2 each. As for the charging pack itself, there's no final price yet, but we're told that it's not going to cost more than $99. So this thing is going to be on sale at the end of the year. Let me know what you think. I think it's certainly interesting to see new approaches to different types of energy when it comes to keeping your gadgets charged. All right, that's all for now, but check out cnet.com/MWC for much more.
Smartphone. It wasn't and isn't a great piece of hardware, but the Sailfish operating system was really interesting. It's entirely gesture-based. I was expecting to have the same opinion of the company's new tablet, but I was pleasantly surprised. This is actually a nice piece of hardware, and I got to spend some time with it on the show floor at MWC 2015 this week. Starting with the construction, it has an aluminium backplate, which looks and feels fantastic. It's covered by glass on the front over the display, and it's only 8.3mm thin and weighs just 384 grams. That's only 50 grams heavier than an iPad Mini 3, and it only has two buttons, the volume rocker and the power sleep key. It's incredibly minimal and doesn't feature any lavish or extravagant design features. It's a simple look and I like it a lot, especially the trademark YOLO round edges on the top and the bottom, similar to the smartphone. It's when you get onto the specs that this thing really starts to surprise you. It's a 7.85-inch fully laminated 2048 by 1536 resolution IPS LCD display. It's incredibly sharp and crisp, boasting an impressive 330 pixels per inch. I mean, this is Retina iPad mini territory. It also comes equipped with a 64-bit 1.8 GHz quad-core processor made by Intel and 2GB of RAM alongside either 32 or 64 GB of internal storage, and that can be expanded up to a further 128 GB using a microSD card. As far as other specs go, it's very respectable. It has a 4450 mAh battery, a 5-megapixel rear camera capable of 1080p video recording, and a 2-megapixel front-facing camera. And on the back, there's a pair of stereo speakers thrown in. As for Sailfish, the idea is that you get anywhere in the user interface with just one swipe. Whether it's from the side, the bottom, or the top of the screen, you don't need to press any buttons ever, unless you want to lock the device or switch it off. And this is Sailfish 2.0, which comes with new features like the app carousel for partner apps to feature their quality programs on the device. And in case you're worried about app support, it can run Android apps. It's fluid and fast, but it does take a little while to get used to. All in all, I'm really excited by what YOLO has to offer. It's a tiny Finnish company with a really passionate and loyal community of followers and contributors. But to buy one of these tablets isn't as simple as just going to an online store. You need to go to the crowd-funded site on Indiegogo, but you can snag one for as little as $219. That's the 32GB model, or $249 for the 64GB one. Full retail price, if it eventually goes on sale properly, will be $249 or $299 for those models. From what I've seen, that's incredible value for money. It's a thin, lightweight, powerful, and beautiful tablet. I've been Cam, I'm at phonedog_Cam. You can grab me on Twitter if you want to ask me any questions or give me some suggestions, or use the comment section down below. And I will see you again soon.
It's
the world's first smart connected luggage. You can track the location anywhere in the world. You can be notified if it's separated from you. You can lock and unlock it from your phone, and you can charge your devices several times. Through Bluetooth, we identify the distance of the user and the suitcase, and if you get separated, it locks automatically. You can also, from the app, lock and unlock, so you don't have to carry a key or remember a combination anymore. It's going to be safe anytime that it's separated from you. It includes a 10,000 milliamp battery with which you can charge your smartphone 6 times over. You can also use it to charge an ebook or a tablet or anything you're traveling with. The bag actually also features a built-in scale. You just pull the handle and the app tells you the exact weight of the suitcase and whether it's approved by the airline to carry on. We announced a partnership with Telefonica through which we are utilizing the 3G network. So the suitcases have a SIM card inside with which you can track anywhere in the world. Since we're tracking the location of the suitcase, we can provide a lot of stats about your travel habits, how many miles you travel, where you've been, and then alert you about important things on your itinerary. So it becomes your personal travel assistant. We launched on crowdfunding platform Indiegogo, and we got an overwhelming response. We got pre-orders from 8,000 backers in 110 countries for a total of $2 million in backing. So it was a really successful campaign. The app is going to be available for Android, for iPhone, and for Windows Phone. Right now what we have here is a working prototype, and we are in the process of iterating the final samples before going mass production. It's going to retail for $450. Right now we're taking pre-orders for $300.